Guys, I am all in my feels. Episode 2 and 3 of The Act on Hulu, between the teeth and the Wolverine and all that is going on with Gypsy and Dee Dee, I can't take the pressure. Guys, stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Guys, welcome back to the Act After Show on AfterBuzz TV. I'm one of your hosts, Linda Entry, and to my left, yay, we have Chelsea. We're back.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
And, of course, we have the lovely Raven.
Hello.
And, guys, you cannot forget Chef Beans.
That's right.
Guys, welcome back this week. We had such a great week last week with just jumping into Gypsy and Dee Dee's story, but 2 and 3 with the teeth and the Wolverine and the men and the drama and the death. I mean, it was a whole lot. I was at the edge of my seat.
Yes.
And I gotta tell you, I'm getting goosebumps right now if you guys are watching me.
I see them.
When she was brushing her teeth, and we'll get to it, and it popped out, I was like, I'm done. What is happening here? Your mom did what to you? Anyways, guys, what are your overall thoughts about episode 2 and 3 combined? Mind-blowing?
Definitely.
I think mind-blowing is an understatement. Like, this show literally has me on the edge of my seat, and my anxiety is going through the roof from the great acting to actually understanding that this was a true story. Yeah, pretty intense.
Raven?
Yep, mind-blowing is a perfect word. Seeing that even in her situation emotionally, you're going to age. Emotionally, she's ready. It doesn't matter whether she knows her age or not. It's happening.
Girl, it should have been happened. It should have been happened. When I found out in episode 3, because I knew the story, but when the way they told it, I was like, okay, first of all, wait, what? Chelsea, what'd you think?
You know, I actually remember when this happened. I watched her on trial. I remember when all this came out. So to watch it happen in front of my face is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes it that much more eerie.
Yeah.
Because you already know it's messed up and creepy, but, like, to watch it play out.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know how she got through this. I really don't.
And, guys, whoever cast us, Patricia Arquette, killing the game as Dee Dee, but this Joey King, Joey,
Yes.
I am a lifelong fan. Because you and her and you and Dee Dee, I don't even know. It's like perfect. She is Gypsy, Gypsy is her in this.
Yes.
Guys, as you stay tuned, we have a couple of special things in our news and gossip. We're going to talk about, because this is based off of a real story, 10 things that the Act has not mentioned. Guys, watch the documentary. Watch them on Dr. Phil. Just anything and everything you can dig up, find it, because all of the gems and then the creative license that they put into this just gives you the full-on picture. Raven, you're looking at me like you don't agree. Talk to me, girl. Talk to me.
Okay. I can't watch it just because it's such a good, the writing, the acting. I feel like it'll take away from the authenticity of that, the creative part of it. I do want to watch it, but I'm choosing to wait until the show ends. And then I can piece it all together.
And I respect that, too. That's
It's too late for me.
I've
watched this for, like, years. I watched every interview, read every article. Right when this, like, dropped on Hulu, I was like, oh, my God, I'm binge watching all this.
You're like me. Like, I need to know more. And once I'm in it, I'm like, I need articles. I need YouTube video. I need to find out what, who, where, when, where'd you live. Like, I'm that person. But I respect being on my seat and not knowing, because you're going to be truly surprised every single episode.
Because I thought about that, the people who haven't watched the documentary, because when I was watching it, I was kind of like, well, how would I see this if I didn't know all the background information on her mom, that whole thing. So I've thought about people who haven't watched the documentary, who know nothing about this, like what's going through your all's mind as you're watching it.
Yes.
See, I personally just started watching the documentaries, and though I have a little bit more insight on it, it's still not hard to be present as I'm watching the show.
Absolutely.
That's how great they did with emulating everything that happened.
Absolutely.
So with the backstory, I'm still on the edge of my seat like, who's that? Where'd they come from? Is this really what it might have felt like? So I'm still tuned in.
Yeah. Oh, tuned in. I am obsessed, you guys. Like, for real, I'm obsessed. If you're on social media, and Chelsea can attest for this, I am talking about it all day in my stories, because that's her flesh and blood, y'all. Her flesh and blood. So let's talk about first Child of the Year. So we see Dee Dee, who has said that she has made. She worked a week on making Gypsy Child of the Year, and she wins Springfield's Child of the Year award. And there's a whole production behind that. What did you guys think of her becoming Child of the Year, and how Dee Dee presented it to Gypsy?
I feel like at this time, Gypsy's kind of figuring out what's going on. So for her, it's like probably draining and annoying because she's like, okay, great, now I gotta go in front of all these people. I now know I can walk. Some of this is probably a lie, and I have no teeth. Like, she has no teeth at this point and has to go in front of all these people. And then, of course, Dee Dee presents it to her in front of somebody else to make her be like, oh my gosh, you're such a great mom. Yeah. Just that scene, I'm like, girl, like, you need that much validation. Like, you're that type of person. Like, your child is sitting in front of you with no teeth. Yeah. And, like, now you don't even tell her, then right before you go on stage, oh, here's your new set of dentures.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
She that's how she controls her. That's how she breaks her down. And I'm curious, like, in the writing room, because this is a disability. This is a mental disease, but I'm finding a hard time finding empathy for her. Because if someone is sick, you would
try to put yourself in their shoes. Yeah.
So you're having a hard time finding empathy for Dee Dee?
For Dee Dee.
Okay.
Because I'm like, it just feels like so much manipulation, but I'm trying to understand also that this is a mental illness. But the way I'm watching it, I'm finding a hard time caring about the mental illness and feeling more just like she's a manipulator and not a good person.
Right. What do you think, Jeff?
Right, so having Munchausen by proxy, we know that means she's basically seeking care, attention, some type of sympathy. But like we all said, like I'm struggling to have that with her charades as far as presenting the awards in front of like certain people, still at the detriment of Gypsy's mental health. So that's why it's just very challenging, even like watching this scene, to know how broken Gypsy felt, knowing that she no longer has like everything. Just really, I was emotionally connected to the scene. It just sucked to like be in Gypsy's shoes in that moment.
Yeah. So what I know about at least this episode that we're talking about, this situation, is that as we move forward, we see that it's less and less about Gypsy and more about Dee Dee.
Right.
And in that moment, Dee Dee didn't care about anything that Gypsy was going through. And I'll tell you this why. And you brought it up with the dentures. So we learn as we move forward that the reason that Gypsy doesn't have any teeth, because Gypsy thinks it's because she's drinking Coke and she's eating frosting. So she feels the blame and the guilt. Her mom removed her salivary glands, and you need those in your mouth so that the moisture is there. If there's no moisture, there's nothing for your teeth to hold on to. So they're going to start rotting out of your head. The mom knows that's why she has no teeth. And so when it was like the day before, the week before, whenever it was, and she had the pink and the blue chiffon stuff on her head, and she's trying to celebrate, and Dee Dee couldn't talk. Can you imagine? You have no teeth, and you're trying to communicate, so you're saying like, what about my teeth? Because that's important to me. The mom's like, oh no, you're beautiful as it is. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. That is all control, like what you said, Raven. It's controlling. So what's different from the first episode to the second episode and to the third as well is that we start to see that even though this is a disease, this is how she's controlling Gypsy, because she's making her doubt herself mentally and physically.
And I know something actually about that. So she's gone on record, Gypsy, saying that her mom, before she had her glands removed, her mom actually put numbing cream on her gums, and that makes you salivate. So when she went in for that, she actually put that on her gums, so she was like overly salivating, so they would remove her glands. That's how manipulative this woman was.
Yeah.
Like, she's on record saying, this is what my mom did. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, she went that far. That's how, and like, they don't talk about it obviously in the show, but that's how far she would go.
But those are the type of things, like, that's why we're saying that this show, there's so much more to this story in real life. We got to remember that this is a true story. This happened to someone. This was someone's mother and a child, in essence, and this mother did all of these things. And
I will say the documentary, I'm sure as the show goes on, it'll give more insight into who Dee Dee was before they moved to Missouri. But in the documentary, they do a good job of kind of interviewing Dee Dee's family about who she was before any of this happened. And she's always been manipulative. Her family doesn't like her because of that. She steals. She's been to jail multiple times. Like, her family has flat out been like, we don't want anything to do with you.
Right.
And now you're dead and your child, that type of thing. So she's always been that way. So, like, for her family, it's not shocking.
And in the act, in this 2-3 episodes, we did see a hint. So when and we'll move on to that when we get to 2 Wolverines, but I want you guys to put in the back of your mind when she started talking about her being a pageant.
Yes.
Right.
Keep that in the back of your mind, okay?
Because I was going to bring that up, but I'm going to wait until
we get to that.
Yes.
So let's move on to Friends and the introduction of Dr. Chandra. So we see that she's desperately still wanting friends, right? She's desperately still wanting to hang out with Lacey and Lacey's friends. And what was so sad about that was when she finally came over with her mom and some baked goods, that Lacey accepted her with open arms, where her friends were kind of like,
I know, yeah.
like,
Like that judgment on your face. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
like the Mean Girls.
And you're in that age, like that teenage where you like want to fit in, and they're talking about sneaking out and being with boys, and they're smoking, weed or whatever. And she's like, "Oh, I was eating like whipped cream in my kitchen," and that's like rebellious to her.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You know
even
what I mean?
the way
Yeah.
the girls responded, they were like, I've done worse things than that.
Like we sneak out and
Yeah.
we do this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that just kind of shows like how childlike she really was mentally. Like
she
to
was
her,
gonna
that was a
smoke.
huge deal. That
Yeah.
and that just shows me how scary her mom really was.
I mean,
honestly.
I felt in that moment, when they were trying to do the puff, puff, pass.
I thought she was gonna take it for a hot minute. I was
She was
like,
about to do it. She
I was
was.
like, she's about to do this.
But then they made fun of her
teeth.
And
Oh, I
I
totally
just
forgot
was like,
about that.
oh, that is
But
so
in this moment
sad.
is when she first revealed that she's been, sneaking sweets at nighttime. I think this was like the introduction to like her edge. Like, oh, because this is happening because my mom doesn't want me to. This was when I think Gypsy noticed that I guess she can lie in public. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was that. I also think she was trying to show that she too is a teenager.
She has
and
spice.
too can rebel a little bit in her own way.
And I feel like Lacey was kind of catching on because she looked at her and was like, "Aren't
Oh,
you allergic
yeah.
to sugar?" And
Right.
she's kind of like, "Oh shoot, like what do I say?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh no, that was false." And she's like, "Oh okay, like something's up."
Right.
All right, and then we have Dr. Chandra. So we met Dr. Chandra last episode, and there had to be one, right?
Yep.
Because I was
Thank
like,
God
you
there was
ha-
one.
You have this woman in her binder, and I know in the times it probably wasn't all the medical technology
big
that we
binder.
have now. But this binder that she would not let go of, she would not let the doctor see, and her excuse, which is a valid excuse because Katrina did
Yes,
happen,
right.
and a lot of people lost a lot of documents, but her excuse saying, hey, you know what? It was lost in Katrina and I don't know anything about it. And when she said, well, just give me like a rough ballpark of when this happened, and the mom couldn't answer, that was the moment I felt the doctor knew she was lying.
Absolutely.
Because-
Anytime she's under pressure, she caves every time. She cracks. She can't
Right.
handle it because she's lying.
But the thing is, about Dee Dee is a master liar. She's a master. Think about how long she's been doing this, so she can lie, right? But when she's confronted with real facts, that's when there's a problem.
Absolutely.
And notice
And she
that
won't be back.
Yes, she only goes to like hospitals or certain places only once.
So that's what you do when you're manipulating the situation.
Actually, after they got all her medical records, she saw 150 different doctors throughout her life. 150.
And I wanted to talk about that when they mentioned the stuffed animals.
Right.
Because
For
that,
each visit.
yeah, and so when they flash to, not when Gypsy was in her room, but when Dee Dee is dead, and they flash with the light, the
Yes.
detectives, and you saw just the wall.
Oh, that's so eerie.
And you remember that this is every single doctor visit. And it wasn't like, hey, we're going to draw a little bit of blood. No, it was something that was going on, serious, that she put her daughter through. So creepy.
And Gypsy even brought that up because Dr. Chandra said, like, where's your bear? And she was like, oh, I get a bear every time for comfort. That should let you know how.
A new one.
Right. Every time she needed to get comfort. Over 150 visits is insane.
Yeah.
And she protected her mom in that visit.
Yeah. So
yeah.
okay. So that's the thing. Here's what I felt. I felt like in that moment when the doctor was trying to tell her, listen, I know something's up without saying I know something's up, and you're not allergic to sugar. I talked to the doctor who said you're not allergic to sugar. So here, try this. And you could see that was in the moment where she was having an internal battle with wanting to be free, but also saying that her mom needs her. She's everything to her mom. So she knows that something's not right. She knows her mom is manipulating the situation, but she also feels like her mom needs this.
Right.
And
Because I
that
don't think
was
it's at that point yet where she has realized everything that's been going on. At that point, she just thinks she can eat sugar and she can walk, which is a huge deal. But to her, I don't think she's reached that point with her mom yet that she's like, I cannot stand you. Like, you've lied to me. You've put me through unnecessary pain. You've manipulated me. People around us, look what you've made me. I mean, I just feel like at that point, she still has empathy for her mom.
Yep.
At that point.
Without, in the documentary, is any of that clear that what she is aware of?
Yeah, it becomes clear to her.
Like over the years, like certain instances, she remembers like, oh, I remember when I did this, and then I remember when because the judge and people were asking her, and she knew each year when she knew certain things were a lie, and that type of stuff.
And I think that we probably can put that in perspective when, and again, I'm moving forward a little bit, but I want you to keep it in your mind as well, when she finds out her age in the next episode, right? Like when she's looking at the ID, you can see how she's putting everything in order, because again, all of these things are happening to her. So how would she not know, right? I wanted to talk about, so the doctor is concerned. The doctor realizes something's wrong, so the doctor calls social services.
Right.
Social services shows up. Allison knocks on the door, and Dee Dee's still one step ahead.
Right.
So she's drugged her daughter. So the daughter is like almost incoherent.
Can you imagine being her? I mean, there's a part of me that has a little empathy for Gypsy just because I couldn't imagine being forced to do all that stuff my whole life. Like as a kid, I hated doctors and shots, and my mom always did all the talking. So like I get where she's coming from, where she has that childlike mentality, like, oh, my mom's got it. My mom knows everything. Now, granted, it was a lie the whole time, but I can't imagine my mom being like here, like shoving pills down my throat and like making me drugged and just sitting there. Like I just can't.
And actually breaking it so that it can get into her system faster.
And she, at that point, still thinks she can't, well, no, she's eating the sugar. Like, she can't swallow anything. You know what I mean? It's just, I feel for her. That's your mom. The one that's supposed to take care of you. Like, I just can't imagine. Like, the PTSD or the trauma that I would have from just all those little instances is just, it would be too much for me.
But this is years, and this is since birth, right? So, yeah. Chef, what do you think?
I think it's very sad, and even connecting back to the song from the pageant, I'll Be There. It's kind of like a metaphor in a sense, like the mother saying, I'll be your protector through all of this, to the point where social services comes up and she abruptly just drugs her. I'm pretty sure Gypsy was used to that, but even when it came down to the questioning, it kind of seemed a little routine, even though she wasn't in her right headspace. I don't know, it was just very like,
you're right, because she knew exactly what to say on key, like, and even drugged.
Even, that's what I'm saying, even not in her right headspace, I must protect my mother. Back to that song, I'll Be, like, her mother has her programmed.
Absolutely.
Or had her programmed.
Absolutely had her programmed, because this was her life, right? And she knew that this was also their livelihood. And I think in the back of her mind, she also knew that she had to do it in order for them to live, not that they're living a lavish lifestyle, but to live in the house that they live in, and have the monies that are coming in from the little fund that they have on the side that we'll talk about, that I think is so crazy. But yeah, I felt in that moment, I felt like, okay, we got a government agency involved and they're asking the standard questions, but is that enough? Is that enough? And that's something that, as we move forward with the act and knowing the whole story, it wasn't enough in that moment, because we know what happens and we know what happened. So I don't know.
So many people failed her. I think that's what makes me more upset than anything. Doctors, the government, legal, everybody failed her. That it's their job to take care and protect people. And for some reason, her mom could manipulate doctors into performing procedures that weren't needed. That blows my mind.
Right.
There's so many people that goes through
get a
the
doctor
paperwork
to do something for me when I really have an issue.
Right.
But we also have to put it in the time frame, right? So the time frame with this whole medical technology has changed the game. Just have a binder and jump from hospital to hospital to hospital, because all the hospitals are connected now. So it couldn't be done in such a fashion, in my opinion, in 2019, then it could, 2000, this is
2012,
11,
2009, yeah.
2009.
Like, her
and
mom
before
said so.
then. Because
Right.
this didn't
When
just
she was
start
an infant.
Exactly. This didn't start happening in 2009. This started happen from the get-go
Right.
when she talked about why her dad and why the dad wasn't there and why the dad left. Well, you guys know the underlying stories because he knew that his woman was not treating the daughter correctly.
Right.
And it wasn't because Dee Dee chose Gypsy. She chose her illness and the attention that it brought. And we'll talk about a little bit more of that in News and Gossip. That I'll Be There song. Listen, so they had a little creative license in the act because we found out that that's not actually the song that they sang in real life. And I will definitely get back to you guys in the real song. But what I thought was great about this is that, again, we saw Dee Dee making it about her. Yeah, you came out of my womb, but
I
right? I wouldn't be this without you. I was like, this woman, what? Wait, what?
She makes it a duet.
I just can't even.
Right? That too. That
She
too.
grabs that mic.
Like, I was like, I cannot with this woman. And I'm trying to feel the empathy, but I'm also really angry at her because she doesn't see what she's doing.
What she's doing.
In episode 2. Because I feel like as we move forward, we'll talk about that as well. So, we move forward into 2 Wolverines, and we see that Gypsy and her mom are going to this kind of Comic-Con event, right? Called FanOptiCon
Yes.
in 2011. And what I thought was interesting about this episode was first the nest egg savings that are coming from people in the community, right? So yes, you're on government assistance, but you're also still taking donations all the time, and money's coming in all the time, and you're hiding it, and you're not talking about it with your daughter.
I even think it's creepy that it's called nest eggs. That means that she somewhat communicated to Gypsy, like, hey, this is our nest eggs. This is what people bring to us, because as we find out later on, Gypsy knew exactly where it was, where those nest eggs were.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Back to the childlike manipulation. Like, these are our nest eggs.
Yep. And then we see also Gypsy looking up kissing online and Facebook. We find out she has a secret
She's at
Facebook
that age.
account, right? And because she's at that age, but she doesn't know she's at that age quite yet,
That's true.
right? But she knows she has those feelings. She has a curiosity. And I wrote down here, girl versus woman. She's kind of in that age where she's like, am I a girl? Am I a woman? And when she looked up the cosplay outfits, she first typed in girl, and then she's like, no, I'm a woman.
I'm a woman,
So
yep.
she knew, instinctively, she knew that, hey, you know what? Something is up. I can't place my finger on it, but I know that I feel more than.
Right.
Right?
It just shows, like, no matter how much you try to manipulate somebody or make them think they're younger than they are, like, nature will always take over.
Yeah.
Like, she thought she was, like, what, 13?
Yeah.
But, like, her body's saying, no, girl,
Right.
you're, like, almost 20. Like, you're 19 years old. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So
She's
it's like, no
trying to-
matter how much you manipulate.
Sex up her costumes.
Yeah.
Even in episode 1, we saw at the party that she was clocked out. She didn't care about the other little kids.
little kids,
And this is
yeah.
2
That's
years
right.
after that.
Yeah.
So imagine how much things has heightened since then.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see her doing makeup on her mom, and I thought that was an interesting moment in the bathroom.
I did too.
Where she is beautifying her mom. They're in matching yellow outfits, and then the mom does her lip gloss, and the mom, you can kind of see, like, where did you learn this? And she's like, oh, I've
Practice on my
dolls.
doll.
practiced on
Yeah.
my dolls.
She knows how to be slick.
Listen,
She learned it
she
from the
learned
best.
from the
Yeah.
best, right?
Yep.
The lies to the lies to the lies. But then when the mom was like, well, you're going to change because I think maybe I shrunk that outfit, the mom knew, like, she is becoming a woman.
Yep.
And she's trying to still stifle that and make that not happen. Fast forward, they get to FanOptiCon.
Right.
And the mom says she's 15. And the woman's like, oh, she looks young. We'll still give you the age because it cuts off at 12.
Yep, that's her ploy right there. Like, she knows that they're going to be like, oh, she looks like she's 12. It's
Yep.
fine. Because it's not like a huge lie. It's not like, oh, she's 12, she's really 19. It's like, oh, I'll say she's 15.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but she knows people are going to be like, oh, you're like 10, 11, 12. And that's how she got away with so much stuff. Like, she knows.
But then Gypsy questioned her then and there. She's like, but I thought you said I was born in 1993.
Right.
Right.
She said, the accident. My memory's always off. More manipulation.
Right. So are you 15 or are you 17? Because 15 and 17, I don't know about y'all, but there was a lot of changes between 15 and 17 for me. Right? So we get there, and she's having a great time, and she meets... Dee Dee meets Russ, a.k.a. Logan. And Russ, for some reason, is like digging and vibing on her.
He likes the yodeling.
Wants to know.
Like, right after I was like, whoa.
It's
right
in the
right
yodeling.
over.
It's in the yodeling.
You called me?
Right, wants to know everything about her. And at the same time, you could see her flustered. And this is the only time where I felt a little bit of empathy for her, because I thought, you know what? This has been a long time that you've gotten this male attention and you don't know what to do with it, and it's showing in your actions.
I wonder if this happened in real life, because I thought about this, because I don't remember this ever being brought up in anything that I've ever seen or read.
Me neither.
So I would be curious to know if the showrunner, the one that created the show, if Gypsy like told her this and this is real.
I wouldn't be surprised, because I think that this was a turning point. This allowed her to take her eye off of the
Gypsy.
prize, and Gypsy being the prize. Yes, because she was slightly distracted. Because even though she rebuted his advances, she thought about it when she got home.
Right.
And
right?
he called him.
And
He called her, whatever.
Yeah, but thought about it and was like, oh, well, he's
He's
doesn't
cute,
know.
right? It's like she was talking to a girlfriend. Because I was kind of
Exactly.
like, dang, I've never seen her talk to her like that. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like, her age. Like, he was cute, don't you think? Oh, yeah, I think he was. You think he was nice? And she's like, what is going on right now?
Right, it's kind of like in that moment she was forced to be like human or vulnerable, like with her many hats off. That's what I got from that moment. Like, oh, like there is something inside of all these different layers, which he even pointed at. Like, I see those layers that you got.
Which is ironic, because I caught this. So when he talked about her having so many layers, later on in the episode, Gypsy's watching Shrek. That same scene.
Yeah.
That's how creative the show is.
Yeah.
They're intentional.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Right when I saw it, I was like, no. And I rewound it. I'm like,
Yes.
they're genius. That's why I love this show.
Yep. And then at the same time, we see that Gypsy has met her own Russ in Scott.
Right.
And she pulls down her little outfit, tightens up that
girl's
corset,
like, oh.
and she's like, yeah, I knew, right? And she even says this, that she knew right away that she was attracted to him. And even then, said she was 18 when she was introduced to him, right? And they tried to downplay it, and the girl that was green was like, oh, here's another stuffed animal. But she's past that.
Right.
And we all knew that she was past that, and she knew that she was
She didn't say
past
thank
that.
you. She just sat there with it, because I was
Right.
like, oh, she's not into that.
She
like,
even
didn't say
inserted
thank
a
you.
little game, like even though what do they call it, a flounder? Even though it's called a flounder, doesn't mean she even started to flirt with Scott a little bit. I'm like,
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yes.
Yeah, a lot. And that's
got
why he
Gypsy
was like,
or-
how old are you? What, 18? How old?
18? That was like
You
the
wanna write that
green light for
down?
him. He was like, oh, shoot, 18. Okay,
Yeah.
like, I'm ready
Yeah.
for this. Like,
And then the flip side, we see Dee Dee in the bathroom kind of freaking out, taking off the makeup because she doesn't want the attention. And here's the thing. She doesn't want the attention.
that's what that was. I wasn't sure what that was, but okay.
She doesn't want the attention because, not that she doesn't want the male attention, she doesn't want to bring a third party into her
Right.
scam.
yeah.
Because at any point, this pyramid scheme could come tumbling down, right? So she's fighting internally between how she's feeling about the attention to the racket that she's got going on.
Right, because
Right.
he's just trying to shine light on those shadows unintentionally, but she feels it like, wait, before it even gets there,
She
let me
can't
just,
risk it.
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as he mentions daughter.
oh, yeah. Click.
Yep.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye, Felicia. Nope. Bye.
Yeah. She
Like,
can't
this,
risk it.
like
Bye,
this is the
Felicia.
end, or whatever she says. It just hangs up, and
Yes.
that's it.
Yeah, she can't risk it. And then I thought another special moment is when Lexi comes by and Dee Dee or Gypsy decides to tell her about the Prince Charming that she's met. And you can see through the flashbacks that Lexi didn't, or Lacey, I keep saying. Did I say
Lacey.
Lacey
It's
or
Lacey.
Lexi?
Yeah, I was
Lacey.
like, who's she talking
Did
about?
I say
Yeah,
Lacey?
Lacey.
Yeah.
Lacey.
Close
Yeah,
enough.
Lacey.
Lacey.
Lacey. Lexi's from Grey's Anatomy. I have too many characters. Lacey didn't know if she was telling the truth or if this was like a made-up fairy tale because she was the Disney girl as well, right?
But you know what I connected with that scene when they were speaking to the cops earlier, or when she was speaking to her mother, like, Gypsy did tell me something this one time.
Right.
That's what I connected that scene to, because though Gypsy was very excited, of course, Lacey just took it as, she's just dreaming, so let me not crush her dream.
But that's what I'm saying. So they were laying down the foundation, right? So they're laying down the foundation, and now in flashbacks, we see that Lacey is putting those pieces together, and that's how we find out about the Facebook page, the secret Facebook page, and that's how we also find about Scott. So listen, I got to tell you guys, the moment that I was like, okay, bravo. So she is at the gas station. Mom wants some sweet tea. She buys that track phone.
Oh, yes.
The burner phone.
Oh, yes.
The burner
And
phone.
puts it behind in her wheelchair. And now she has her like secret rendezvous where she can reach out to Scott, and they start texting. Love that moment. That is the moment of a teenage girl.
Absolutely. Stole the money.
All of it.
No idea it was going to be for a phone, though. I was like,
Right.
okay, she's up to
Right,
something.
Yeah.
Right when she put it on, I was like, what is that? Is that a phone?
Yeah.
Girl. Like,
Loved it.
Just like her mom. So one step ahead.
Loved
always.
it. And then I loved how they played it against mom being on a house phone.
I did
Talking
too.
to her boo, and her being texting, right?
to her boo.
Different
right?
boo.
The two generations, and like
Oh, that's true.
the contrast on how you go about pursuing a relationship, right? So then, fast forward, Scott, when she's talking about like, do you want to have kids and do you want to get married and here's my address, I was like,
Yeah, she
Hold
was
on.
moving very
Thing.
fast.
She doesn't
You-
know.
right, but
anything.
but think about the first time you thought you liked someone or you loved someone. You're all in. You don't know anything about
Yes.
anything.
I smiled
But
when
you're-
she was talking to the friend, to the girl, because she was just so pure in her.
Yes.
It's like that nostalgia. We've all had that moment where you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But you could start to see Gypsy calculating herself as well. So he sends her a gift, right? And it's from Wolverine. First of all, she's out there in a heartbeat. Mom's asleep. Let me get
Get this
that.
bag.
Let me get that real quick, right? Goes to the bathroom. You guys, this is my favorite
I know what you're
moment.
going to talk, because it was
My
mine too.
favorite moment. I had to rewind and say what she got to the bathroom, and when I say she jumped out of her wheelchair, she jumped out of her wheelchair and was like, "My boo sent me a gift. My boo," you know what I mean? Like she
Threw
was.
that wig right on. It was like, yes, this is my
Listen,
moment.
with the quickness she was on those feet.
She
Yep,
was.
yep.
I was like, you know what? That looks like a gym move. Like
And
you were a gymnast in that
Also,
moment.
the fact that when they first started chatting, she said, "Here's my address in case you want to send me something."
Girl,
Right.
I've never said that in
All
my life.
that.
I was like, dang, you are blunt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like sitting there going, I would never be like, oh yeah, by the way,
Yes.
here's my address. I thought it would be like to come over. If you want to send me a gift, here's my address. Like,
Or come
okay.
over, she said.
Did she say come over? Okay.
And not only did she not just say come over, she said, and rescue me.
Oh, and rest, yep.
I think one of the funny things was she said, yeah, it's been a month since we've seen each other. It's our anniversary. I'm like, oh.
Oh, and they
And he
hadn't
was like,
met
oh, happy
yet.
anniversary. Or, like,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. She's like, this is our 1 month anniversary. I met you one time, girl. Calm down.
Right.
But you could hear it in his voice. He kind of like paused for a second because I
Yes.
was like, okay, I want to hear how he responds to this because that's weird.
Because she
that's
lived
weird.
in a double fairy tale. The fairy tale with her mom and the fairy tale that her mom put her in with the Cinderella and
Yes.
with this. So, man.
Yes, it's a whole lot. And then I want to talk about real quick. So Scott gets hurt, bar fight in the hospital. We know that she had a major moment there. What does she do? She steals some more money. She goes online, gets a taxi, goes straight to the hospital because she knows it well. See her walk by the doctor who doesn't recognize her, right? She looked beautiful. I
Right.
thought she looked beautiful. I thought all of it. And how confused was Scott, first of all?
He was like, you're walking.
And you're the girl that like I met one time and yeah, we text, but whoa.
You're at the hospital?
I did not expect you here, right?
That was a great moment.
Fast forward to when the mom wakes up, which I knew she would, right? Because we needed that moment. The mom wakes up and Gypsy left that note for her. Do you guys remember the note? Where
She dropped the mic at the
Oh,
end.
yes.
yeah, your daughter your 19-year-old
19-year-old
daughter.
daughter.
Girl, I was like,
That was a
Go
neck
ahead.
roll and a
all of it.
Yes.
It was all of those things.
But I found interesting actually when she got to the hospital how quickly she went into like mom mode for him, like
Nurturing mode.
like nurturing, like oh I'm gonna take care of you, like what do you need, oh my poor baby, all this, and I'm like, she doesn't know any different. Like, to me, that's her mom manifesting in her. Like, that's all she's ever seen.
Yeah.
Because, you know, most
Whatever
women are
she's-
like that. Some are not. It depends on how you're raised. And she went straight into it. Like, oh, I'm going to take care of you, my poor baby. Like, let's get you home. I'm going to take care of
She
you.
was
Where's
petting
the...
him. My baby.
And I'm like, whoop, there it is.
Yeah.
She's her through
Yeah,
and through.
all of it. So we flash forward to her going to Scott's house, Scott having a roommate, all of that, and then Dee Dee finding her. And Dee Dee finding her, because remember the flashback where they were talking after Dee Dee's dead on the porch, and I can't think of her name, but
Tracy?
Tracy, is
Tracy,
it?
something like that?
Jeannie, I think her name is.
Something
But
with
she
an
was like,
E.
yeah, Dee Dee called me in the middle of the night, late one night, wanted to know what that guy's name was and who he was and all of that. And then they were like, well, why would she
Shelley.
call you? Shelley.
Shelly.
Why would she call you late at night? That doesn't even make sense. But now, fast forward, that's how she found Gypsy.
Where he lived at, yeah.
Yeah, that's how she found Gypsy, exactly. So we see her there, and she not only makes it about herself again, saying that she got an anxiety attack. She's like, don't make me make a scene here.
I just watched his face the whole time. He's just standing there like, what
It's happening.
have I done? Like, what have I
Yeah.
inserted myself into?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, and then at the end of the episode, we saw the ultimate control, because it was no longer about, hey, I'm taking care of my sick kid, and this is my meal ticket. This is, you're my prisoner. We both know that you're 19.
Right.
We both know that this is a sham, but we also know that this is going to continue on, and you have no choice in it.
She snatches that wig off.
Oh, so fast.
And looks at and puts that wheelchair thing down. I was like, oh, see, you know what? That's why you don't have my sympathy or empathy, because you know exactly what you're doing. And now at this point, you're doing it not even like, not that she was ever voluntarily doing it, but you're doing it with malice.
Yeah.
Right.
She
and
like
it-
made her roll all the way up the thing by
Yep.
herself. You could tell she was
Yes.
struggling, and I'm
Yep.
like, ooh, she's not even gonna help her.
Yep.
I mean, she did eventually,
She
but
wanted
yeah.
her to fall
Yep.
back a little.
There was a lot of non-verbal control in this from the moment she pressed the button to even, like we said when we saw in the documentaries, they said every time her mother would stand next to her in their interview, she would squeeze her harder. Or when she hug her, she would hug her very tightly just to let her know how much control is inside of her mother.
Yeah.
But the last scene, as far as like pushing up by herself to the point where her mother pushed her up at the end, I think that was very telling for the audience. Like, no, like, we're in this together, and you know who's steering this ship.
Steering the ship, and this is how it's going to be from this episode moving forward.
Right.
Like, I'm calling the shots. Let's move forward a little bit with some news and gossip. And while we get that up, why don't we talk about our network a little bit, Chelsea?
Yes. Alrighty. Well, we just want to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. For us to continue to grow, we could use your help. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. You know you want to. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. No matter where you are, leave us a comment so we can get you involved in our conversation. Being a part of AfterBuzz TV has meant so much to all of us, and I think we all can agree on that. And we truly appreciate you supporting us and doing what we love. Don't forget to tell your friends and keep enjoying all of our AfterBuzz shows.
Yes. So I wanted to pull this up real quick. This is Michelle Dean. She is one of the creators of the act, and she is the one that actually wrote the 2016 BuzzFeed story, which made all of this possible. And what I wanted to say was she wrote it was 8,000 word article that she wrote in 2016, and when she wrote it, it was like a big hit, and every network wanted to make this movie, make this show, and she was like, no, you know what, I want to do more research, I want to be in control of it, and that's why we're now seeing it on Hulu, because she wanted to make sure that she had the nitty gritty and all the right details.
Right.
Thank you.
From a journalist perspective, which I thought was great. I wanted to talk about 10 things that we didn't know from the act, and I'll go through them real quick. So the first thing we know is that Gypsy didn't know her real age until she was nearly 20. So if you see her in the wheelchair, which should be our next photo with Patricia Arquette, this is that when she was the Child of the Year moment, right? So Child, we know that Child is no child. She's 19 years old. But Gypsy didn't know that in real life.
And she's like, what now, 27?
Yeah, she
28?
did not know that, which is something we should talk about because, you know, she only got 10 years, so she doesn't have a lot of time left. Dee Dee has a history of poisoning loved
Here
ones.
it is, the
so,
crazy.
If you think Gypsy Rose was Dee Dee's first victim of being poisoned, think again. Dee Dee was suspected of poisoning her own stepmother with Roundup weed killer when she was much younger. Her stepmother, Laura, was bedridden for 9 months when Dee Dee was her caregiver. So people think that maybe this is not the first time that Dee Dee was like, you know what? It's this Monchausen. Another thing, if we move forward with Dee Dee, Dee Dee is suspected of killing her biological mother.
This is the one I know about. This is the one, yep.
So, according to family members of the woman, Dee Dee had allegedly starved her own mother to death. And after Dee Dee was murdered, her own father and stepmother claimed that she got what she deserved, and the entire family considered her to be a bad seed. Dee Dee's siblings flushed her ashes down the toilet. So no one wanted her. They
For
just
her
thought
family to hate you that much, like, what?
They
like,
thought she was
flush her
awful.
down the toilet, like, we don't want to pay for it, we don't want anything to do with her. Like, that's very telling.
Yeah, they had no remorse for her. Her body being cremated, they just like, we don't want anything to do with it. I don't know how to do a flush down, but yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chef. That's exactly it. Gypsy really identified with the movie Tangled. Tangled from 2010 retells the story of Rapunzel, who was trapped and isolated by her mother for nearly 2 decades. Gypsy Rose always felt a strong connection to that Disney film, which all ties in with the Disney and the cosplay and all of that stuff and being a princess. Gypsy is thriving in jail. If we can put, this is the real Gypsy Rose. She's in jail, as we know. She's the victim of Munchausen by proxy, and feels as though being locked up in prison is a much more freeing than all the years that she spent with her mother. And according to her, she feels as though she's been reborn through prison and that she's basically thriving and living a normal life. So can you imagine?
Yeah.
Going to prison to feel freedom? Can't
like
imagine
that.
it.
Nope.
That's that.
So Gypsy's been lied to her whole life about her father's intentions. So this is her real father in real life and his wife, her stepmother. And I think I'm going to save the news about them to the next episode because we're going to get introduced to them in a little bit.
I will say real quick, Patricia Arquette's accent, like I have an ex who's from this part of Louisiana, and they do have a very distinct accent, and it's very difficult to mimic.
Right.
And she does it perfectly. Right when she came on screen, I was like, are they from Louisiana? Like, I knew immediately, and I want to give her props for that because it's a very hard accent to replicate.
Yeah, and then if we can fast forward to Gypsy with the doll, and she's in a wheelchair. So her whole life, she believed that she was in a motorcycle accident, and that's what caused her to be wheelchair bound. But when she was 8 years old, she was in a minor motorcycle accident where she scraped her knee, but her mom led her to believe that she could not walk, and the injury was much worse than it was at 8. So think about it, from 8 to 18 to 19 to 20. Are we surprised we got to where we got to? And then this last picture of Gypsy, I think, is just like the perfect shot to end on because this culminates everything, right? Her Disney, her princess, her kind of not problem, but mixing fantasy and reality, which led up to the death of her mom. Guys, news and gossip, it's so much more. We have so much more to say, but we're going to save it for the next episode.
I have a question.
Yes,
because you
girl.
guys have seen the documentary. How, in real life, when did she learn she could walk? Because it was quick in the series.
Yeah, I think in the documentary it wasn't as quick. She didn't know right
I think
away.
it was like
After.
Right, that's what I thought I read.
I think
So she
was
never just tried to move her legs. That is such mental.
But I also think, too, that it was because of the drugs, right? She was on so
Right.
many competing drugs that perhaps, and atrophy. You get atrophy after you haven't used your legs in a while. So unless you're moving your muscles and you're moving your legs, then you really probably think you cannot walk.
And her mom knows that.
Her mom knows that.
And a doctor actually picked up on it. He had a document, like one of their medical records. He stated that she does not have that because she has developed muscles. Because he said to her mom, because they interviewed the doctor, and he was like, I know she doesn't, because when someone hasn't used their legs for that many years, they have no muscle at all.
Yeah,
and she has some developed muscle. So I know she can walk.
Right.
So, like, it did start to tip doctors off.
Listen, guys, there's so much. There's so much. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come back next week, you guys, and continue the discussion. We loved hearing from you in the comments on YouTube.
Yes.
You can tweet at us. You can DM us, whatever. Let's continue the conversation. I'm Linda Entwistle. You can find me all across social media at Linda is So Girly.
I'm Chelsea Snyder. You can find me at Chelsea Snyder on all media platforms.
I am Raven French, Raven with an I, and you can find me on all social media platforms at Raven French.
And I am Chef_Beans. That's Beans with a Z. You can find me on all social media platforms.
Guys, till next time, I'm on my seat on the edge just biting my nails. We'll see you guys then. Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.